Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome Nagios founder and president, Ethan Galstad.
Thank you. Thanks for coming. We're really happy to have all of you here today. I mean, it's amazing to be here. NetSaint, or Nagios, is 15 years old now. This is 2014 is the 15th anniversary, and we're really excited to be here. It's amazing how quickly 15 years passes, and I never thought we'd be here today where we are right now when things first got started so many years ago. But we're really glad you could join us for this event. This is our 4th year running the conference, and it's our biggest event ever. We've got a great speaker lineup, a lot of really nice presentations, and some fun events. So we hope you all find it enjoyable and find it beneficial to your professional career as well. Now, there are a lot of things that, we love this conference as a company too. This is the one time a year when we actually get to meet with you in person. Most of the time, we're communicating via email or maybe a support forum thread or a phone call, but rarely in person. So we really value this opportunity to meet with you in person and to discuss with you what kind of challenges you have in IT, how you're using Nagios, and what you'd like to see in Nagios in the future. We really find that valuable. We find that inspirational, actually. That drives a lot of our development and what we do. Now, since it's the 15th anniversary of Nagios, I thought I'd give everybody a little history as to how things got started and how we got where we are today. And some of you know this, some of you have been long-time Nagios users. You know some of the history, you may not know all of it. So I'll take you back to where things first got started. Actually, they got started longer than 15 years ago. So back in 1996, I had my first sysadmin job. I was still in college, and I was a network admin for a student newspaper here at a local university. It was awesome. It was my first chance to actually use technology and to be able to be in charge of systems. And the entire newspaper was run by students. So the IT team, we had our weekly IT team meetings offsite 2 to 3 blocks away at a local bar, which is awesome. I mean, you don't usually get to do that, go offsite and drink while you have a meeting. And that was awesome until one day when we had one of these offsite meetings at the bar, the file servers back at the newspaper crashed. And everything stopped working. I mean, the editors couldn't write, or edit their articles. The entire operation came to a stop. And when we got back, we caught hell from the business manager, because they didn't know where we were. They weren't able to get a hold of us. This is, before cell phones were widespread. We didn't actually even have pagers at that time. So we were told, you're never going to have these offsite meetings anymore. And they issued us pagers at that time. Now, I thought, well, this is a tragedy because I really liked having the meetings at the bar. I thought that was a great side benefit of working there. So I thought, maybe there's a way I can come up with a technical solution to build a monitoring system that would prove to the business managers that we should be allowed to have those offsite meetings at the bar because we'd know when servers crashed. And I actually implemented a very simple monitoring application back for them that allowed us to get paged when problems occurred. Now, we never actually got the offsite meetings at the bar reinstated, but it was my first foray into network monitoring, and it kept me interested in monitoring until a few years later when I actually released NetSaint as an open source project. Now, NetSaint is the original name of Nagios, and some of you have been using Nagios since the NetSaint days. I released it as a hobby project and never really thought many people would use it. There were a lot of free and open source solutions on the market or that were available at the time. And there were a lot of commercial solutions too. I mean, really big, well-established companies had commercial monitoring solutions that were really capable. For my application, I wasn't able to afford the commercial solutions that were available at the time. And the open source stuff that was available, I really didn't think it didn't work the way I wanted to. So I decided, I'm going to build my own thing as a side hobby project. I'll build version 1.0 of NetSaint, and it'll be done. It doesn't need any upgrades. And I didn't think many people would use it. I thought maybe a dozen or so people might actually use it. That obviously turned out to be wrong. a bad estimation, because what happened afterwards is a community came around that NetSaint project, and the open source community helped to develop it. They helped contribute to it, helped support it, and it grew into something that I never thought it would be. Today we have currently, around 1 million people using Nagios. It's incredible how quickly and how large the Nagios community has grown over time. So certainly much bigger than the initial dozen or so people that I thought would use it. Now back in 2002, we changed the name to Nagios. We had some trademark issues with the name NetSaint. And so the name Nagios was developed. It's a recursive acronym. It stands for Nagios Ain't Gonna Insist on Sainthood. It was a play on the old NetSaint name. And that's a name that stuck around, caught on. Later, in 2009, the original project that was known as NetSaint and later was renamed to Nagios was renamed yet again to Nagios Core, because we brought on additional solutions at that point. So there's been some changes in the name over time, but it's basically the same thing. Now, Nagios Core, for those of you who know it, it's a free open source monitoring application. It can monitor your entire IT infrastructure. So anything that you've got in your network, whether it's websites, Windows boxes, Linux servers, Unix servers, applications, there are thousands of plugins that allow you to monitor pretty much anything out there with Nagios. So it's really powerful, it's really flexible, and many of you know this. You've used Core for a long time. Last year at the conference, we had a major release of Nagios Core that we announced. Nagios Core 4 had some big performance improvements that were made underneath the hood. So Nagios Core 3 and earlier, they performed the checks of the things that needed to be monitored in a certain way, and that worked very well. But it wasn't always the best for performance and scalability. And so Nagios Core 4, we changed the way things worked underneath the hood, and we use what are called worker processes. They're essentially lightweight applications that basically split up the load. So it decreases the load on the monitoring server, thereby increasing performance, and allows you to scale out your monitoring server to monitor a lot of different things. And that's important because we've got a lot of customers and community members that monitor sometimes tens of thousands of websites or applications with a single Nagios Core instance. So scalability is important. So if you're running currently Nagios Core 3 or earlier, Nagios Core 4 offers a lot for you in terms of performance enhancements. We've continued to make upgrades to Nagios Core 4 over the past year. So you'll definitely see a benefit to upgrading if you're using the open source version. Now, I mentioned earlier that in 2009, we renamed Nagios to Nagios Core because we brought on additional solutions. Prior to that, in 2007, my wife and I started Nagios Enterprises, the company around Nagios, from our proverbial garage, although not the actual garage because the garage gets pretty cold in January in Minnesota. So we started in the basement instead. And we started offering commercial consulting services around Nagios. And we helped people who needed assistance with installing Nagios, fine-tuning what they had, or if they needed some training on their current Nagios installation. That's how we got started. And what we found with a lot of the consulting jobs that we took on is that a lot of the people asked us to do things and asked us to add features that weren't in Core, and a lot of the requests were pretty similar. They wanted a lot of the same things. And we decided that the best way to serve those people was to actually bundle the common things that they were asking into a prepackaged commercial solution. It was easier for us to support. It gave the features that the user wanted to them. And we were able to deliver that solution at a better price point than what we were having to charge for consulting services. So that resulted in the release of Nagios XI. This is our first commercial product. It's actually our biggest commercial product right now. It essentially is the enterprise edition of Nagios Core. It's built on Nagios Core. It actually uses Nagios Core under the hood, so you can monitor anything with Nagios XI that you can with Nagios Core. We just added features to it that make it easier to use, like dashboards and performance graphs, and just a lot of nice configuration utilities on the front end. Because not everybody who uses Nagios is a Linux admin. I mean, prior to Nagios XI, if you weren't really familiar with Linux or Unix and editing config files by hand, it wasn't all that easy to use Nagios Core. So Nagios XI has kind of changed the game for a lot of people. It's made it easier for them to deploy Nagios, when they otherwise might not have been able to do that. So after Nagios XI, this past year, this spring, we released Nagios XI 2014. It was a pretty major upgrade in terms of features that we embedded. Now, one of the things that we did is we included the Nagios Core 4 engine as part of Nagios XI 2014, and we were thereby able to kind of inherit all the performance improvements that were built into the open source Nagios Core 4 release. So we saw a lot of performance improvements. Our customers saw that. We also had a lot of things that made configuration easier for administrators, for end users. We added some reporting capabilities, just made things a little bit more easier to manage for large installations. Now, after Nagios XI was released, we started to get requests from customers who had multiple Nagios XI and Nagios Core servers deployed throughout their organization. A lot of companies deploy multiple servers because they've got a really large network, and they need to, maybe they're on separate networks and they need separate Nagios servers deployed, or maybe they're just monitoring a lot of stuff. And so they've got a bunch of servers on their network, and they wanted the ability to have a centralized view of those monitoring servers. So we came out with Nagios Fusion, and that gives you a centralized dashboard, high-level view of everything that you've got on your network, of your Nagios Core and your Nagios XI servers. It gives you that bird's eye view, as it were. If you're an admin, you're able to get that high-level status information and centralized reporting that is nice to have. You don't want to check the status of all your individual servers to see what's going on across your infrastructure. So Nagios Fusion was the result of those kind of requests, and that's been something that's been helpful for people. Our next product that we came out with last year actually came out as a result of requests that we got from customers and community members who wanted a deeper level network monitoring than what Nagios Core and Nagios XI by default do. So if you've got switches or routers in your network, it's really easy to monitor bandwidth, total bandwidth usage on the network using SNMP. But that usually just gives you total traffic, just raw aggregate data. And people asked for more. They wanted more detail on what was actually happening on their network. So we created a new product called Nagios Network Analyzer. We released this last year. And it uses NetFlow and SFlow information to actually give you granular, lower level detail about the activity on your network. You can see which machines are talking to other machines, which IP addresses are communicating with each other. And you can see things like what percentage of your total network bandwidth is being used by web traffic or email traffic or file sharing. And that's useful not only for planning for bandwidth and hardware upgrades, but it allows you to set some quality of service policies in place. If you see a lot of file sharing traffic and you want to limit that, Network Analyzer kind of gives you the view as to what's happening, so it gives you the information you need to set those rules. And it's really good for spotting security alerts too. So when we were first developing Network Analyzer in-house, we had a situation we saw our network was really busy. There's a lot of traffic on it. We didn't know why it was slow. We saw that the bandwidth graphs showed a lot of data, but we weren't sure where it was coming from. So at that time, we fired up an early version of Network Analyzer to take a deeper level look at the network, and it very quickly showed us the machine or IP address in question that was the cause of the problem. And not only did it pinpoint the machine in question, but it told us that that machine was sending data to a port that was well known as a malware port. So we were pretty concerned, but we were able to quickly address the issue. Now, it turned out it actually wasn't a security issue like we thought it was, but it allowed us to pinpoint the problem right away. And that's one of the things that people use Network Analyzer for, and that's what that gives you. Now, we do more than just produce commercial products. We work on open source projects like Core and many others. We develop a lot of different add-ons for both Core and XI. I'm going to mention two of the add-ons that we've developed. These are fairly new things, and they're important. If you manage a current Nagios installation, I think you'll find these useful. One of the things that people wanted from us is a better agent, something that worked cross-platform, Windows, Linux, Unix, and so we came out with NCPA because the current agents that are out there, NRPE, NSCA, and NS Client++, they work, and they've been around for a long time, but they all have problems, or they're difficult to use, or they all have limitations. And we wanted to overcome some of the limitations that were present in the different agents and come up with a common agent that could be deployed across multiple operating systems. And that was the driving force behind NCPA. And it's a really cool add-on. It's very easy to use. It's got a lot more features than the other agents that you might be using. You can, even if you don't use Nagios Core or Nagios XI on your network, if you install NCPA on a Windows box, for example, NCPA has a built-in web interface where you can log in and you can actually see real-time statistics on the performance of the machine. You can see how much memory is being used or disk usage, what that's looking like. And it's able to do both active and passive checks. So Nagios Core, Nagios XI can reach out and ask the agent, what's the current memory usage on the machine? It also supports passive checks, so the machine can check in with Core or XI every once in a while and say, here's how much disk I'm using. So it supports all that. It's got a really simple configuration, a nice installation process. If you're managing a Nagios installation with agents, NCPA is something that you should definitely look at. It's got a lot of nice features. So another add-on that we came out with fairly recently deals with SNMP. SNMP is supposed to be simple, but it's not. It's got simple right in its name, Simple Network Management Protocol. I haven't ever talked to anybody that actually thinks SNMP is simple. I think they called it simple because it has a simple architecture. The architecture is easy to understand, and it makes sense, but dealing with OIDs and MIBs is not easy. It's not simple. So simple doesn't always equal easy, especially when it comes to SNMP traps. And a lot of our customers and community members wanted a better solution to see what kind of traps were coming in. They were responsible for network devices, and they were receiving a lot of traps. They needed something beyond the stuff that was just out there, with the capabilities of the things that existed. So NSTI is what we developed for that. It's an add-on. It works with both Nagios Core and Nagios XI, and it provides a nice interface. So you can see traps that come in. You can search through the traps, filter them, and get some basic reports. A lot of people have SNMP in their environment. A lot of big shops, a lot of the network gear, it talks SNMP. It's a very common protocol, common standard, in a lot of infrastructures. So traps are a big deal. They contain a lot of important information. NSTI makes dealing with traps a whole lot easier. So those are just two of the many add-ons that are available for Nagios. If you've run Nagios for a long time, you know it can do a lot of different things. And part of the reason for that is all the plugins and add-ons that are available for Nagios. There are currently well over 4,000 add-ons on Nagios Exchange. That's our website where the community uploads plugins, components, wizards, and we do as well within the company when we develop stuff. So you'll find new things being developed and added to this site every week. So if you're in charge of a Nagios installation of some kind, Nagios Exchange is a place that you want to be familiar with. There's a lot of really good stuff there. If you're looking to have Nagios do something that doesn't do by default, there's usually a solution for you on Nagios Exchange. So, I mentioned we like this conference as a company because, we get to meet with you and talk with you face to face. And I don't think there's not really a better way to communicate and to share ideas. And we really do find it inspiring. I mean, after previous conferences that we've had, we always give priority to features that people want to see. I guess the priorities that we make in our company are usually based on the people that we've had discussions with at these events. So coming here and actually being able to meet with our developers means a lot to them, and we do take it seriously. We try to implement the things that you're looking for. In the past, last conference and previously too, one of the things that people have been looking for is a better solution for monitoring logs, both on Windows servers, Windows event logs, and syslog data, syslog ng, rsyslog, application log files. There's a lot of different types of log files out there. And you can monitor logs with both Nagios Core and Nagios XI right now. It's just not really easy to do. It's a little hokey, actually, but you can do it. So we decided we needed to come up with a better solution that worked really well and that was really scalable. Now, most all of you are in sysadmin or network admin work. You know that you've got a lot of log data sources. I mean, every operating system, every device, every application on your network, in your infrastructure produces log data. And it's important log data. And you should be looking at it. I mean, when you get started in sysadmin, work, I mean, the industry best practices state that you should be reviewing your logs. And for good reason, because your logs contain performance information, information about the things that are about to fail, or things that have just failed, or security-related information. And all that is really important if you're in charge of managing the infrastructure. But there's also a lot of white noise. I mean, you can be collecting gigabytes of data per day or per hour. And there's a lot of white noise in there. So you need a good solution to filter out what's important to you and what you need to deal with and kind of ignore the rest. But you can't just ignore it completely. I mean, if you don't have a good solution for monitoring logs, what usually happens is you stop monitoring logs effectively. I mean, you let it fall by the wayside, or you put together your own solution, and it works fairly well, but it's got some limitations. But you usually can't, especially in big organizations, you can't usually just stop monitoring logs. You have to. A lot of organizations have to comply with different industry regulations, and those regulations oftentimes cover, you having to actually monitor and manage your log data. It's important. It contains sensitive information, and there are rules that you have to comply by. So we decided, we were looking at different solutions for things that would work well for people, and we found the Elk Stack. Now, if you're not familiar with the Elk Stack, it's Elasticsearch, Logstash, and Kibana. It's a really, really powerful open source framework that makes collecting, storing, and searching logs incredibly easy. There's some things that it's missing, but it's an incredibly powerful framework, and it's really taken off recently. It's been around for a while now, but it serves as a really awesome foundation. And so we decided maybe we can use this foundation as a basis for an offering for our clients, because it was missing some things that it didn't have by default. And our dev team, they went to work earlier this year. They've been working really hard, and they've done a great job. So we're today happy to announce the launch of a new product called Nagios Log Server. It's built on that Elk Stack. It makes it easy to search logs. It makes it easy to set filters and limit your search results. It makes it easy to send alerts, get notified when something goes wrong, customize the data that you're looking at. It just makes managing and monitoring logs so much easier than it has been in the past. Now, Scott Wilkerson, the product development manager at Nagios, he's going to talk more about Log Server in the next session. So I'm not going to go into too much detail about that, but I will cover a few of the major highlights, or I guess the major features of Log Server. So the first, obviously, is the ability to search really easily, near real time. You can search for a pattern, and you can see the results immediately in a graph, in a table, in a dashboard of some kind, and you can get immediate updates, every 5 seconds or every second if you want to see immediate updates. That's similar to if you're, on a text file, if you're running a tail-f, you want to follow the file as changes are made to it, but it happens in the GUI. You can also customize the searches. So you can use both regular expression searches, queries, and the Lucene query format, which is the native query format for Elasticsearch. They're two obviously very powerful query languages. And you can search not only across the entire log message that comes in, but by the different fields. Usually when a message comes in, via syslog or a Windows event log, there are a number of fields within that data stream. And those fields get split up. So in Log Server, you can actually limit your query to certain fields. And you can use different queries on different fields. You can set up filters. It's really powerful. So you can drill down to the data that you want to see really easily. Now, something that we added that was important for us and we thought for our customers was an easy way to save the searches that they were running. I mean, if you're an admin and you're searching for logs, you're searching for something like SSH authentication failures. That's something that's important to keep an eye on. You can either retype that every time, that query, or you can just save it. And you have the ability to do that in Log Server. You also, if you're an admin, you can deploy or save a global query so that all the users that log into it can access that query. So you can write some complex queries. Maybe you're the only person in the organization that can write a regular expression query fast without opening the book and taking a week to write that query. But if you write it and you save it, somebody else can use it, so that makes it easy to use. We've also added custom dashboards. Now, if you've used the Elk Stack, Kibana already has dashboards built into it, but it doesn't have per-user dashboards. We've done a lot of work to allow you to customize dashboards on a per-user basis. So if you log in as a different user, you can look at data differently. And if you're an admin, you can create a dashboard and deploy that to your end users so they don't need to create it themselves. Now, the dashboards are really powerful, and Scott's going to show you an example of some dashboards that can be created. But we've used this internally in our company now for the past couple of weeks, and the dashboards are really, really useful because, I mean, log data is boring, right? It's text file. I mean, you probably don't, on the weekend, you're not like, I'm going to review my Windows event logs and look through the event viewer. I mean, it's horrible, right? And looking through text files on a Linux box isn't much better. But if you present that data in a dashboard, you can find some really useful information. So your raw log information contains a lot of important information, not only security-related stuff, but some stuff that's really nice to have also from an organizational perspective too, or from a business perspective. We actually fired Log Server up against our Apache logs and some of our other application logs. We found some data that was kind of surprising to us that allowed us to actually make some decisions about things that we should be focusing on in terms of priorities that we need to do and we need to take care of for our business. So it's really powerful when you present data in a different format other than just those raw text messages. You can get a lot of really cool information out of there that's not only nice to look at, but useful for your company. When it comes to getting data into Log Server, I mean, it can accept Windows event logs, syslog data, or plain application logs on Windows and Linux, Unix machines. We've made wizards, essentially, that allow you to get those things set up and sending data very easily. You click a button, it gives you instructions, do these 2 steps. And we've written, installer scripts that basically do all the heavy lifting for you, so you don't need to configure your Linux systems or Unix systems. You can do that manually if you want, but we've made it easy for people to do that by just following a few simple steps. We want the product to be easy to use. And we added something that Kibana and the Elk Stack didn't have actually at all, and that was authentication, essentially, and also just multi-user level access. So we've added that central authentication, that authorization layer, because it's important that you lock down your logs. I mean, it's great to collect log data, and you want to be able to search your log data, obviously, but you don't want everybody in the world to have access to your logs. I mean, there's a lot of sensitive information in there that you don't want to have exposed. So that's one of the things that we added. And obviously, alerting. We added some capabilities that allow you to be notified or alerted in some manner if a search query or a pattern that you've defined matches. So for example, if you do search for SSH authentication failures in your log data, you can create an alert on that. So when a certain number of authentication failures are found in your log data, an alert will be either sent to you by email, or you can send it off to Nagios XI or Nagios Core. So even if you don't use Core or XI, you can still get an email alert about that alert. So that allows you to you don't need to watch your log server all the time. We don't want to do that. We're IT people, you automate stuff. So that's what alerts are for. You can set that alert up and set it and forget it. It'll let you know when there's a problem. One of the really powerful things about utilizing the Elk stack for Log Server was the fact that Elasticsearch had some clustering and failover capabilities. It's an awesome underlying engine, and Scott's going to demo some of the stuff that it can do. With Log Server, you can run multiple instances of the Log Server of Log Server in a cluster. So, for example, if you had you had 2 instances of Log Server in a cluster working together, your log data is stored on both of those instances. So if one of the instances goes down or goes offline, it crashes, for some reason it's not available, you can still log into the other instances on the cluster, see the data, you can still get alerts about data. So that's really handy, especially with data replication that's built into the clustering logic. So I mentioned if you have 2 instances set up, your data is essentially mirrored. Now that's similar to like a RAID 1 array in hard drives and software RAID. If you have 3 or more, it utilizes logic that's kind of similar to a RAID 5 array, where the clustering engine will actually take the raw data and split up the data and build some parity data as well, and split up those data shards or data chunks across the different instances that you have in your network. And that allows you to not only scale very well because you're distributing the workload. It's like when you install a RAID array, performance when you read is much quicker because you can distribute the I/O a little bit. So you can do that with Log Server instances, and that works well for scalability, but it also helps with the failover or the high availability situation where if you have 1 or more log servers go down, you can still get to your data. And that's important. Your log data is really important. It's got a lot of good information in there. So we were looking at, we looked at open source solutions that were available, and we looked at commercial solutions, and we talked with a lot of you last year at last year's conference about the current log monitoring solution that you had in place. And a lot of you were using different commercial solutions that were available. We were astonished by what you guys told us last year at what you were being charged for your log monitoring and management products. We did a little research afterwards. We found out the same thing. We were really surprised. Some vendors are charging $10,000 or $20,000 a year, and that's on the low end. Oftentimes it's $50,000 or $100,000 a year or more, required as a subscription payment, by the way, just to be able to have the honor to use their log monitoring and management solution. And we thought that was a little bit too much, because it's not like log data is a proprietary secret data that's unique to somebody. It's commodity data. Everybody has log data. Everybody needs log data monitored. So we decided that we were going to use a different model instead of a different pricing model for Nagios Log Server. So we're introducing it on the market at under the $100,000 price point, which a lot of our vendors, you probably can't make a single phone call to them without buying a one-call phone pack for $1,000. That's the initial price point we're launching at. That doesn't just get you the ability to use it for a year. That's a perpetual license. It's similar to all our other products too. They're all perpetual licenses. We don't believe that you should have to renew an annual subscription. We believe that it's our responsibility to make products that you want to buy. If you don't want to renew your subscription, your maintenance subscription, we'd like to know why, because it means that maybe we need to do something better. It could be that you just don't have the budget money for it, which is another tough thing about really expensive vendors, that if you're paying $100,000 this year and that you have the budget for it this year, what happens next year when you don't have that money? That's a huge expense. And I think it's better to spend the money on people rather than software. So that's kind of what we believe in the company. So you get a perpetual license with this. You also get a 2-cluster license. So you can run 2 instances of Log Server, and you can have that failover capability. So you essentially get mirroring of log data. And we don't put any limits on what you can push through this. A lot of vendors, it's most common to charge you based on how many gigabytes per day or month you actually collect of log data, or sometimes the vendors will charge you based on how long you want to keep that data. What's the retention period, 30 days, 90 days, whatever it is. We don't do that. You install it on your own hardware, so you're using your own data storage. We don't put any limits on that. We did some testing internally, and the Elk engine underneath this framework performs fantastically. It's really fast. And Scott can give more information about this, but when we did some testing, I think it was a 4-core system with SSD drives, we were able to push through about the equivalent to about 100 gigs of data per day without a problem, without this thing really even taking on major load. So it's a really cool solution. It makes it super easy to use. We're excited about it. I mean, we've already used this inside the company and found some really interesting data, so we find it valuable. We think you will too. You can get a demo from our websites. You'll also be able to trial or take a look at Nagios Server outside in the garden court area, where we've got product demo stations set up throughout the conference, where you'll be able to see Log Server in action yourself, as well as check out some of our other products as well. Normally we do a 60-day trial, but for all of our products, but we've upped our trial period for Log Server to 90 days. We have a contest running related to Log Server, and Scott will give you more information about that, but that's one of the reasons we went to a 90-day license initially. So definitely give it a try. Take a look at our other products. Even if you don't ever plan on using them, we'd like your feedback. I think it's, we're a small company. We actually take your feedback really seriously. We're not the size of Oracle or Microsoft, where you don't actually even know who to ask the question if you want to make a suggestion for a new feature. It's easy to talk to any of us. We really do like the ability that we have here at this conference to meet with all of you in person. We think it's fun to share a drink with you. And we've got a great event tonight. We're on the river tonight. There's dinner and there's open bar, so we hope to see you there. It's going to be a good time. But we do find it inspiring. We do take your comments and suggestions very seriously. And I just want to say thank you again. Many of you have been longtime Nagios users since the NetSaint days. And I can't thank you enough for doing that. I mean, all of you, I really like to say thank you again, because we wouldn't be here today if it weren't for your contributions, either as an open source community member or as a commercial customer, or just an attendee who's interested in learning more. We wouldn't be here today. So we really value that. And thank you very much. We hope you come back again in future years. But at the very least, take advantage of this conference. We have a lot of networking opportunities built in. You'll notice there are a lot of breaks in the conference. And we've designed that so that you can actually, you can meet a lot of people easily. That's one of the things we got great feedback on in previous conferences. People like the ability to meet with other people, share their experiences. And so that's intentional. You'll see that we have a number of breaks throughout the conference, so take advantage of those. Anyway, we just hope you enjoy yourselves. Thanks again for coming, and hopefully we'll see you tonight on the boat. Thank you.